the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you live downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Very busy 3-hour action-packed program lined up to close up the week. In 30 minutes, Jeff Sherman joins the program, VP Risk Management over at the Westgate. Big night for them annually last night. Every Thursday, the week before the Super Bowl, they put out their props. Sharp bettors flock to town if they don't live here to bet them. They take some nice limits. You can bet a couple at a time. Get back in line. We'll find out what was the most popular from Jeff at that time.
Yeah.
Mike Detillier on the program. The big game is in his backyard. WWL in New Orleans. Good as pick on that. Also, Kellen Moore. He's going to get another meeting with the Saints. He's a very heavy favorite to go there and be their next head coach. You're calling Richard Munchkin the best guest we've had in 7+ years on the show?
He's my favorite guest. Yes.
That is strong.
He's a professional. He's been to classes on storytelling. He was a professional advantage player, blackjack player. Doesn't matter, scouting. Wherever the game would take you, he would go. Russia, back rooms, whatever. The Russian mob story. I would say out of the top 10 stories told on this show all time, he probably has 3 of them. And I remember the last time he was on, which was a while ago. And again, it was a perilous trade when we were on 4 to 7 Pacific in the morning. No one's going to come in. What are you, drunk? But Chris Felica and his wife were listening, and they were blown away. Couldn't believe when he told the Scotland Yard story. So we'll get him to tell that again.
It's a doozy. It's all-time good.
Yep.
And he's also trying to transition into becoming a professional sports bettor now.
Good for him.
And we'll get into his biggest beefs that he has with sports books.
Was retired.
Yeah.
He was talked out of it and to get back in and get into this racket.
And Mike Somich on the program as well. Okay, so now pretty much all the props are out for the game, right? I've been waiting. I've been taking my time. As I said yesterday, Stanford Steve made fun of me. Mitch, I don't like the portfolio so far. Well, look, I mean, this is a tough game for me to wrap my head around and try to build my case because I want to have like props that are, I don't want to be all over the map with props, right? I kind of want to have them correlated. And that way I can have either a very big day or potentially, a very bad day. But so I've been waiting, taking my time. I made some more bets that we'll tell you about over the next 3 hours of the program. But we can begin, Paul, here with some of the creative props. I don't know if any of these are worth a stab in my opinion, but man, you can get some really big odds on some fun props to have throughout the day. On Super Bowl Sunday, these are at Circa. It's basically a fat man touchdown. Any player 300+ pounds to score a touchdown here is 25 to 1. So you're going to have
That's
a Jalen
great.
Carter type rumble in,
Yep.
scoop and score, or probably a pass at the goal line to an offensive lineman.
Yeah, these are great. These are great. And as always, shop because fat man touchdown, offensive lineman, 27 to 1, most places 14, 15.
Yep.
Even lower.
How about this? Not a touchdown, but will any offensive lineman have a reception? It's 35 to 1.
I don't hate that.
Because I guess in
Creativity,
theory,
yeah.
you're going to get a smaller number on to score touchdown, but the offensive lineman could, recover a fumble? They could also put him in the backfield as a fullback, I guess, William Perry action. He could get a carry that way. So the reception is 35 to 1. I would think if that's going to happen, it's going to be near the goal line, though.
Yes.
Will any player complete a pass to themselves? Yes, 75 to 1. Josh Allen, that happened to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Recently? And he scored the touchdown on the pass that technically it went to him because Cooper lateraled it back to him on that Sunday night game against the 49ers.
That's creative.
Yeah.
Very good.
Will Mahomes or Hurts have a reception? Is plus 1250.
That I don't like.
No?
I would eat a lot more than that.
Would you rather just bet over 2.5 players to have
at a plus price?
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Right. Will a kicker or a punter make a solo tackle? The yes is plus 825. That's pretty random overall. You're going to need a lot of kickoff returns, by the way, for that to help you out a little bit. And, I mean, the punt total is at 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
So probably not going to be, a lot of, you might not even get double-digit opportunities here for a kicker or punter. So that seems very unlikely. This came in last year. No problem. 55-yard plus field goal. Yes, plus 625. Bucker is nails right now.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
I would trust him. I think that's a pretty good price. Yes, absolutely. The other one, it seems like it's happened a lot, but then you always remember it if it's in a big game because it's such a blunder. Kick out of bounds, 10 to 1.
Yeah. Elliott be the guy?
I think that'd be Elliott.
If there's going to be a kicking blunder, I think it's going to be him.
Yeah. And with Butker, I just tell him to bang it through the end zone
Every single time.
Don't mess around.
Right.
Will either team convert a third or fourth down of 25-plus yards? Yes, plus 1150.
And that's a...
What do you think of that one? That's really aggressive.
PI counts, right?
Yeah.
You throw it up on 3rd and 25, but they don't do that, though. They'll probably just settle for a quick dump off or a screen pass.
Have you seen roughing the passer penalty?
I have not.
Will Hill used to put that up.
Yeah.
I didn't see it either. So you have that. You have KC minus $2 to convert a fourth down. Philly $7. And then just to tie it in here, Westgate yesterday put up, will you convert a fourth down in your own territory? KC plus 375, Philly plus 250. So you have every angle covered with that prop.
Philly would be the team, right?
Own territory, yeah. Although they did it against the Bills, though.
Yeah. I'm just thinking in my head, like 4th and inches from the 48-yard line. We're not going to punt this bad boy, so let's go out there and do the tush-push, I guess.
Those are good. Good job, guys.
No, those are very creative. The Westgate, some of their props that came out last night, you can bet basically the first score of the game. They put up 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6, all the way to 7.5 minutes. So that's a Paulie Howard dream come true, I think, if you'd like to know on that. Will either team score in the final 3.5 minutes of the game? 3.5 minutes of the game. The yes minus 190, no plus 165. What do you think of that one?
I like that. That's good.
You like the yes on that one?
I think it's risky business, though, to bet will there be a score, like if you would bet the no first 3.5 minutes of the game, which is $5. With the Barkley factor?
Sure.
Nah, that's a little risky. But we know the history going back 7-1, as you said yesterday.
What do you want to do with this one? And you've specialized in kickers all year long. The total yardage of all field goals, 116.5. Are we going to have enough field goals made to actually push that over that number?
I don't know. That's a good question. This one's tough. Based on what happened 2 years ago, but also you have two aggressive coaches.
Yeah.
So he better not try anything with Elliott from distance. Although if you think he will again, because he's stubborn, he is plus 330 to miss a kick, to miss a field goal.
Right.
And then extra point is plus is almost 5-1. So that's the one where it's how many does Butker get, though? And then if it's 4th and shorter, they're going for it. That's a tough one.
That's the thing. Butker could go over that number on his own.
He could, yeah.
So I love this again. The idea of it. Will the game be decided by exactly 1 point is 16-1. Will the game be decided by exactly 2 points is also 16-1. Because of the 2-point conversion and the possibility of a missed extra point from your guy, Jake Elliott here, like those landing spots, even the 2 is kind of turning into like kind of a key number here. Has been for a minute. Like that's possible. Because of that, again, look at last week. It's 22-21 at one point in the game because the Bills decided to go for 2 and they couldn't get them at all rather than keeping the points on the board with the extra points, and that created like that wacky score that we had throughout the second half of the AFC title game.
You just need one thing to happen.
That's it. That's all
you
you
need.
need.
One thing. A missed extra point, someone goes for it, doesn't get it, and then it's bananas, and Scorigami could come in, all of that. That's all you need. Yep. And I'm sorry, I was going to lead that into the 2-point conversion, which is good too. Both teams to attempt a 2-point conversion is 5-1. Both teams to convert, which happened in both games, by the way, Sunday, but both teams to convert is 11-1. To happen in both games last week was 10-1, and that happened. So
hold
they
on.
have that covered. Yeah,
I don't remember that. Both teams converted a 2-point play last week?
Both games.
Both games.
Both games
there were. Okay. So if you're going to bet that, I would say bet the attempts and not the conversions at the higher price. Just bet the attempts at 5-1.
Philly failed on theirs. Washington got in. And what was it? Did the Bills get? Bills got one, think I, too, yeah.
And again, 2 more here on Jake Elliott at the Westgate. Will he miss an extra point? Just on his own, you can bet that at plus 450, or will he miss a field goal is plus 320. I really wish this game was outside and
I'm with you.
With a potential of bad weather again. The numbers would not be that high on him, but everything like for him to have a bad game would definitely exist.
Lead change in the fourth quarter, plus 235. Not bad.
Well, if it's anything close to the game 2 years ago again.
Will Hurts have 2 touchdowns in the same quarter, plus 550?
That's passing and receiving? Or I'm sorry, passing or rushing?
I think that's passing. I think it said it could be both, actually. I'll have to look at the how I wrote it down.
Okay.
A.J. Brown, a touchdown in both halves, 16-1. And then you have the Kelsey props, 100 yards plus 450. Yeah. Good. They did an excellent job over there as well.
This one's boring, but I did make a pretty decent bet on the Eagles team total over 23.5.
Uh-huh.
They're going to score some points in this game.
Yeah.
I know the Chiefs' defense is Spagnuolo. I mean, he's like the best there is, right? And they have a game plan every single game. There are several different angles here for the Chiefs, even the Chiefs blowout. Okay. Well, that means the Eagles are going to be pressing the gas the entire game. But also with their home run hitters that they have on offense, I think 23.5 was absolutely worth a bet.
All right. Go get them. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just joining the action, Super Bowl success starts with VSiN Super Bowl betting guide. It's packed with everything you need to make informed wagers. The Super Bowl game preview, top trends, everyone's pick, and MVP, strategies, macking and numbers as well, history. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today as little as $9.99. Cheaper than a meal at Taco Bell. VSiN.com/subscribe. Get it now. The prop analyzer, worth the price alone. What do we have? NBA and NFL. VSiN.com/subscribe. Get it today as little as $9.99.
Yeah, I told you yesterday on the show I was going to bet some exact scores. Again, very difficult to hit. But I think it could be like in that neighborhood of 31-26, 31-27, or 31-28 either way. And so I bet all 6 combinations of that at some pretty high numbers yesterday. Also, this opened 35-1. I missed that number, but I put some pizza money at 25-1. It happened the last time they played, and a path exists for it to cash yet again.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. We're live downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Fabulous guest in studio, Richard Munchkin, professional gambler. You can follow him on X. He's at RWM21, co-host Gambling with an Edge, author of Gambling Wizard. So you just told the story of what your career was like going back to the 1980s to today. What was allowed back then compared to modern-day Las Vegas?
So, back then, you could walk up to a casino cage, cash out $50,000. No one would dream of asking you for your name, let alone an ID. And you could bet more then than you can bet today. I blame that on the corporations taking over the casinos, and they're not interested in making the most revenue. They're interested in keeping their jobs. And so they don't want to have any kind of a big swing because they could lose their job over it. So the limits are lower. All of this cash transaction reporting and all that stuff. And, it's a nightmare in paperwork for the casinos. But, so you could just get away with so much more. And the other thing was the communication. Half the time, there was no camera that actually worked in the casino. They couldn't take your picture. They couldn't distribute your picture to everybody. Now, you get thrown out of, say, the Bellagio. Every MGM property on the Strip has your picture, and they're waiting for you to walk in. So that makes things a lot harder. So you could get away with a lot more back then. But the main thing is, the limits were higher, and than even in real dollars.
Well, that's crazy to me. You told that story. The guy who you just met for like a week gave you the $20,000 to start playing blackjack with. $20,000 back in 1980 is more than $75,000 today.
Yeah. So, and you could go bet $50,000 on a sporting event, on a football game. Try to do that in Las Vegas. Other than Circa, who on Sunday you could probably bet $50K.
For sure, yeah.
But you couldn't do it on the Strip.
Did you want to expand a little more on the leap, going from blackjack, counting cards, and how that evolved?
Yeah, one of the most important things in any form of gambling is your network. The people that you surround yourself with are so important, and the bigger your network is, the more successful you're going to be. And that was really kind of the secret to my success, was meeting a lot of people. And, I'm a a friendly guy, and I made a lot of friends. And the more friends you have, the more money you make. And you know, I've said before, you know, the real key for me was I teamed up. I always wanted to play with other partners. Like, I don't like being on the road alone.
Sure.
I want to be with other people. And I always teamed up with people who are smarter than I am. And that was really the secret to my success.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. How about the trust factor? And also, it's the scouting. And hey, and you told the story once you met a guy in a back alley. He handed you a bag of money. How does it get to Richard? You got to check out this game in Korea. It's unbelievable.
Well, in the case of Korea specifically, you know, I mentioned the guy who handed me the $20,000 was a guy named Alan Woods, who he died about 15 years ago, and he left an estate of $1 billion because he went to Hong Kong with a guy named Bill Benter, and Bill Benter invented betting on horse racing using computer models, and they were partners. And Bill Benter was actually also on one of my first blackjack teams. So anyway, what happened was in 1986, Alan was in Hong Kong betting horses, and he called me up and he said, hey, I found a really good game, and I'd like you to go play it, and I'll put up the money, and, you know, we'll split it. I was like, you know, I have teammates, and I'm really kind of committed to them, and I'd like to play, but I can't, you know, I can't go play for somebody else when I'm playing with them. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, you guys all can go play it, and whatever you want to bet, just double it, and I'll take the other half of the bankroll. So I said, okay, and it was Korea, and the game was unbelievable. The best game probably I've ever played in my life in terms of, for you to make money out of a casino, the casino has to be making money. And in Korea in the 80s, Japan was booming, and like the average guy in that casino in Seoul would walk in. The way here, the average guy will come in and buy in with $100 bill. There, it was 1,000
Oh, geez.
in 1986.
What?
and it was almost all Japanese players. And
It's blackjack.
this is blackjack, and the rules were so good that a basic strategy player had an advantage off the top without even counting cards, right? It was unbelievable. And so we started playing there, and one day I walk in, and I walk around the casino, and I count 40 guys that are all there counting cards, right? And we had kind of heard a rumor that the casino would not throw you out if you didn't bet more than $200. And so they were all, you could eat at the table. They would come in, order, you know, eggs and orange juice and eat breakfast at the table while they played, spreading. And I called my teammates and I said, you know, this is not going to last. Even though they're only betting and we didn't want to bet $200. You know, the limit was $3,000. We don't want to bet $200. So I was like, this is not going to last. And one of my partners said, well, what we need are Japanese businessmen to bet the money. And that's what we did. We started recruiting these Japanese businessmen. They would come from Tokyo with a Japanese passport, and they would sit at the table with us as if they didn't know us. And, you know, the white guy would be betting $5, and they'd be betting 2 hands of 3,000 or 3 hands of 3,000. And, you know, we took more than $1 million out of that one casino. And the only reason that it ended was there was basically a degenerate gambler, a Japanese guy that was practically living in the casino. And he was a bust out, complete bust out. And he approached one of our Japanese big players and said, hey, can you loan me $10,000? And our guy said, of course, said, no, you know, I don't know you. And the guy said, well, why don't you get it from your friends? And he said, what friends? And he said, the white guy that's always at the table with you. And he had figured it out just because he was in there all the time and had seen it. And, you know, our guy said, we don't know what you're talking about, right? And anyway, that guy ended up going and ratting us out to the casino.
Wow.
And then, so what the casino did was they didn't bar the Japanese guys. They came and barred us, the $5 bettors, you know, and that kind of ended that.
So you took $1 million out of that casino. How long was that stretch?
3 years, but there were other casinos in the country, so we probably took $1.5 million out of Korea during that. And here's a funny thing about Alan Woods, who was taking half the bankroll. After we had won like $300,000 or $400,000, he said, "You know what? You guys can just play. You don't have to. I don't have to take any of this anymore."
Wow,
like, Alan, you're the one who gave us the game, and he's like, "Yeah, but I've never made so much money for doing nothing." Like,
oh my God,
you don't have to. Just cut me in anymore.
So obviously, you and your entire team moved to Korea to specifically play that game, and then branched out for more than 3 years.
Well, yeah, we had an apartment there in Seoul, but you would have to fly back and forth because your visa could only last, I think, 90 days was the limit. So, and we didn't want the same guy in the casino with the Japanese guy all the time, right? So we would switch off every couple of weeks.
What was the feeling like, and did it happen more than once, when you used your Hollywood connections and used makeup and a mask or whatever, and then the pit boss said, "Hey, Richard, how you doing?"
Yeah, so that happened to me here in the States, right? But we were trying, before we got the Japanese guys, we were trying to, how could we be Asian looking, right? So I got the special effects makeup person from the movies I was working on.
Oh my God.
To make up a friend of mine, right? And so they put elastic around the back of his head with tape that would pull his eyes back, and he had skin tint to make his skin darker, and a black wig, and he's like, "Oh my God, this looks ridiculous. They're going to know this is a disguise, and nobody is, going to fall for this." And he gets in the elevator at the casino, and a guy gets on the elevator and looks at him and goes, "What part of India are you from?" And we were like, okay, I guess this might work.
Get ready for Big Game 59 with a big deal to match. Save $59 off the VSiN Pro annual subscription. Use code FTM. Every best bet, every host, every guest. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code FTM.
Stick around. I promise we're going to get to the Scotland Yard story with Richard Munchkin coming up in the next hour of the program here. Also, Richard has said there is no way he would sit down in a high-stakes poker game because cheating is out of control in poker. I can't wait to hear this coming up next on VSiN.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Busy hour coming up in 30 minutes. Mike Somich on the program. VSiN hosts a lot of bets that he likes for the Super Bowl with prop bets, our best bets in pocket plays. Here we continue with professional gambler Richard Munchkin. He's been doing this for a long time. Author of the book Gambling Wizards, co-host of Gambling with an Edge. He's at RWM21 on X. And if you missed the previous half an hour, I would urge you a little bit later on today or this weekend to go back, get the VSiN Watch app on your phone, and check out the last half an hour that we've talked about with Richard Munchkin and his career, gambling overall, incredible story. Scotland Yard coming up in about 15 minutes. So you said, basically, quote, "There's no way I would sit down in a high-stakes poker game because cheating is out of control in poker," end of quote. Explain that.
It's pretty apparent. I mean, cheating is rampant in high-stakes poker. I mean, rampant. And the technology now has gotten so good. So, for example, one of the things that's being used is they have cards that are marked along the edge like a barcode, but it's invisible to the naked eye. And a camera, either built into a cell phone, or the camera can actually be 15 feet away from the table.
Wow.
After the dealer cuts the cards, the camera reads that barcode, and it tells which hand is going to have the winner. Doesn't tell you what it is or what anybody else is going to have, but it'll say seat 3 winning hand. Now, at least one of the people in the game has, either a vibrator or an earpiece, and they now know seat 3 is a winner. Now, maybe there are 2 people in the game. So if either of them is at seat 3, they know they're going to have the winning hand regardless of what the cards look like on the flop or whatever.
How do they get that specific deck of cards on the table?
Usually they end up paying somebody off. Somebody on the inside is in on it. They're getting a cut. Another thing that they have is they have shuffling machines, legitimate shuffling machines that have been altered, and they changed the chip in the machine. And there's now a camera in there that can read the order of the cards after the cards have been shuffled. So, there's just, like I said, it's rampant. There have been numerous cases now that have showed up in the news, down in Dallas. There were accusations of the Hustler Live game.
Yep.
There have been a lot of these things going on. And I happen to have met a lot of people over the course of my career, and I know some of the people that are on the dark side, I would call it. And, sometimes they call and tell me these stories that are just, unbelievable. And that's why I said I would never sit in
Look at your Twitter feed and stories you retweeted as well. Earpieces, the device is so small, you need a magnet to pull it out, the phone case on the felt, and players putting device behind the shoe in blackjack and Texas Hold'em. What else am I missing?
So this is happening in casinos where, and it's, it's funny because technology is so old, it's new again, that there was a guy, the reason that there is a law in Nevada against using a device in a casino is because a guy named Keith Taft invented this camera in a belt buckle. And when the dealer would deal blackjack, it could see the dealer's hole card. And it got broadcast out to a van in the parking lot and then back to him with an earpiece in the casino, right? And they got caught. And the reason they got caught was because this happened at the Marina Casino, which is where the MGM sits today. And there was a bomb scare. And so security was patrolling the parking lots, worried about a bomb scare, and they see this truck and they hear noises inside, and they open the back of the truck and they see video monitors with a dealer on the screen dealing blackjack and these two guys in there. And anyway, so they got arrested, and there was no law against this at the time. And that's what ended up causing the laws to be changed. But anyway, that technology now, the cameras are so tiny that there was just a case in France where a guy had a cell phone on the table that had a camera that I guess would see out of the side of the cell phone and see the dealer's hole card when they were dealing it. And he was the one with the earpiece that was so small, you need a magnet to get it out on the end of a little probe,
Oh, it was like a James Bond movie or Mission Impossible.
Yeah. It's, yep.
It's great. Check him out, RWM21 on X with some of the stuff he retweeted, Richard Munchkin. So you came out of retirement. How did that happen, and how do you get into sports betting now? Let's go down that road.
So, I had retired once again, and my long-time partner I've been playing with for over 40 years. In fact, he was the guy I was in the Scotland Yard story that I was in England with.
On the plane, money going down? I can't wait.
He calls me up and he was like, hey, we got to get into this sports betting. Like, there's a lot of money to be made and we should just be doing this. And I was like, all right, okay, maybe it'll be fun. You learn a lot when you're doing something new. And it's something I had avoided for a long time because I thought maybe you had to know something about sports to make money betting it, which turned out not to be the case. But so I said, okay. And so about 14 months ago, we started betting sports. And, and a lot of the things that came from blackjack play really carry over in terms of the network, having a network of people that is tremendously important. But also when you're on a blackjack team, different people do different functions, right? So you got to have a math guy. And just like that in sports, you got to have the math guy who is the one who builds the model to get an edge, right? But also, just like blackjack or any kind of gambling, getting an edge is one thing, but learning how to get the money out of sports books is a whole different thing. and probably more than half the battle. So, it turns out I don't need to know anything about sports because that's not my, job as part of the team, right? My job is to figure out how to get the money out of sports books and not have the accounts get fried.
Okay, so and you started 14 months ago then.
Yeah.
Okay, so that can be like a risky proposition that we're talking about then, because you got to massage it obviously from the get-go. How has that been for you then?
Well, the main, first of all, there's a big learning curve, right? Because we didn't know anything when we started. So it's been pretty good. One of the big problems is in blackjack, you know exactly what your edge is, right? There's a right play and a wrong play, and you know what it costs or what it gains you. In sports, you don't know. And so you work with what we call originators, guys who build models and come up with what they think are edges. But you can lose for a long time with a small edge. And how do you know if you actually have an edge?
Sure.
So, it's been a learning process in terms of after a certain amount of time, you have to get rid of the things that are not doing well, even though maybe they had an edge, but you
wait too long, you
some
might get
process to,
Sure. Let me ask you this then. So have you guys been doing this specifically in Las Vegas, or have you been?
Well, we have a network.
Okay, so but you're responsible.
I'm
here
in
probably.
Las Vegas, but my main partner lives in Colorado, and then we have other partners that live in other states.
The bonuses were incredible there. Did you take care of all the bonuses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we had a lot of experience with bonuses back in like 2004, 2005, before the UIGEA. Back then it was the boom. I mean, it was back then the online casinos was, I mean,
how would you compare then living in Las Vegas, betting here, trying to with Vegas sports books compared to their experiences in Colorado and other states?
Nevada is the worst state in the United States for betting sports, which is a shame because they had a monopoly for all those years and they just screwed it up. It is unconscionable that you cannot open and fund a sportsbook app on your phone in Nevada, and you cannot play on a computer. You have to use a phone, and you have to actually go to a casino in person to open and fund an account. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, yeah, it's just terrible.
The desktop betting, BetMGM finally has it here in town.
I thought they couldn't.
No, they finally did it. I saw it this week. I was on it this week.
Really?
Yeah. And so, but once that has to come at some point, because I no longer can like spend all day long on my phone. The older I get, I have glasses now. I can't do it. It sucks.
Yeah. And the other thing that is just unconscionable and should be illegal is, there's one particular app that anybody in Nevada knows. You put in a bet and it says, going for review, and you get the spinning wheel. Right. And then they either come back and say bet denied and they change the price, even though they didn't give you any of it.
Should be illegal.
Or, it should be illegal. Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, some of the things they do are.
Scott, sorry.
We're lucky because this book gets Circa's awesome.
This is the best book in Nevada by far. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. I mean, it is.
Scotland Yard and a great Alan Wood story to close coming up next. No big game is complete without a classic game of squares, but this year make it even better with Circa Squares bets from Circa Sports. We all know the pain of pulling those bad numbers. Not anymore. You get to choose your square and the numbers you want. Each square has its own odds. You're always in control of your bet. Download the Circa Sports Nevada app today and place your Circa Squares bet. Turn your big game to a big win with Circa Sports.
So as promised, one of the best stories you're ever going to hear about Richard's time, Scotland Yard coming up, and the Russian mob involved as well.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Time to go prop shopping get some bets for the Super Bowl. VSiN host Mike Somich joins the program now. His show is called Ready, Set, Bet, Saturday and Sunday nights right here on VSiN. He is on the Progressive Guest Line. Mike, good afternoon. Thanks for the time as always. We certainly appreciate it. You were dynamite a week ago with your breakdown of Xavier Worthy and why you need to bet his rushing yards over, and it came in with flying colors against the Bills. The floor is yours, my friend. You got to be doing it again, right?
Yeah, it's always nice when you have a prop that's your favorite prop of the weekend and it cashes in the first quarter and you've got room to spare as well, because you're always worried about those negative runs. And yeah, I'm going right back to the well here with Xavier Worthy in the Super Bowl. You got to shop it around. I know there was a 4.5 at BetMGM for a while. There's a lot of places right now at 5.5 or 6.5. To be quite clear, I like it over 6.5 still. But 5 has been a key number for Xavier Worthy. 4 times this year in 18 possible games he's actually landed on 5 yards rushing. But to me, there's still a lot to go with this, even if you are looking at that 5.5 or 6.5 number. He has gotten a carry in 15 of 18 games that he has played in. He's gotten 2 or more carries in 4 of the last 5 games. He's gone over the 10-yard mark in 4 of the last 5 games. And Andy Reid has given a wide receiver or a tight end a rush in 20 straight playoff games. I expect Xavier Worthy makes that at 21 here, and I wouldn't be shocked if he gets multiple carries. We saw him get 2 in that Bills game, although one was kind of a screen swing pass that went backward. They did try and run him at the 5-yard line as well later in the game, but that one ended up not happening due to a challenge by Buffalo. So we did see a possibility of him getting up to 3 rushes there in that game against the Bills. I think they want to get Worthy involved, and I think this is a tough matchup for Worthy on the outside because of the cornerback duo, or really trio, that the Eagles have. I think that means they get him involved in the run game. So we'll take Worthy over, I would say 5.5, 6.5, but shop around and see if you can still get that 4.5 that was available, like I said, at BetMGM most recently.
Great write-up at VSiN.com. Another one, Pacheco, longest rush under.
Yeah, love this one. Pacheco is clearly not the back. If you just look at the last 2 playoff games, just 5 carries in each of those games. He's not all the way back from injury. It was a knee injury middle of the year, missed multiple weeks, lose 8-9 weeks there. He's only played 9 games this year. In those 9 games, he's eclipsed the 10-yard mark, just 3 of those 9 games. And now that the carries are falling down, to me, the under longest rush is a great way to go because we have not seen the explosiveness from him that we saw when he was healthy earlier in the season, as well as what we saw last year. You can get that under 9.5 yards for the longest run for Pacheco. I think he gets 5 carries. And if he gets 5 carries against this Eagles run defense, which is pretty good, I think it's far-fetched for him to be able to rip off a 10-yard run. So like the under Pacheco longest rush at 9.5 quite a bit.
How does that tie into what you want to do with Kareem Hunt then?
Well, it's funny because it doesn't feel like the books have fully figured this out yet. If you look at the rush attempts right now, Kareem Hunt sitting at 10.5 or 11.5, depending on where you are looking. And you've got Pacheco sitting there at 6.5. And to me, it's just not 63-33 right now. I mean, you look at last game specifically, 17 rushes for Hunt, just 5 for Pacheco. I'm not sure in the next 2 weeks we're going to see that delta. And when you look at these 2 running backs, you compare what they do well. Well, Hunt has better vision. Hunt is a better blocker. And Hunt is a more consistent running back from a catching perspective out of the backfield. Pacheco's real strength is he runs hard and he has explosiveness. But if you take away that explosiveness, Hunt is clearly the better back. I think Hunt is the bell cow here in the Super Bowl. Let's go over 10.5 if you can get it, or 11.5 carries.
So Mahomes going to be very popular with like the rushing yards, probably a rushing touchdown as well, maybe even the first Chiefs touchdown overall. You're not going to approach it that way at this point anyway. What do you want to do with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I haven't attacked any of the rushing props. If I do, it would be attempts versus yards. He loves taking like these 3-4 yard knees, and that counts against your running yards, but not your running attempts. It's actually good for attempts. So if I was going to play any Mahomes rushing, I would be taking over the carries number for Mahomes. But I really like his over completions number. You can find it at 23.5 at some books or 24.5 at plus money. To me, when you look at this Eagles defense, what do they do well? They rush the passer with 4. They drop 7 back in coverage. When you see those situations, you're going to see a lot of shorter passes, a lot of ball control offense, something the Chiefs are very used to after they really were the reason this defense was invented, or at least popularized in today's NFL, after they were so explosive the first time that they won a championship. Because of that, Mahomes has a lot of experience against this specific defense, and what you see is a lot of these shorter passes, 4-yard, 5-yard passes, some slants. You're going to see more swings out to running backs. All of those mean completions. You're going to see higher completion percentage passes versus the downfield shots, which obviously have less of a success rate. I think Mahomes' completions is a great place to look to the over here. I think it's a lot of short passes. I think it's just the move the stick style offense here for Kansas City. And if that's the case, then I love the idea of him going over 23.5 completions. And if you look at what Washington did, they pretty much did that exact same thing, right? Where Ertz ends up with 11 receptions. You see their running backs get 6 receptions in that game. I expect the same thing from Kansas City here. I think Noah Gray gets involved. I think you're going to see Kelsey from a reception perspective, maybe not the yard side, but I do think the receptions are a good way to look, which means that the completions here for Mahomes are a good way to look. So I'll take Mahomes over the 23.5 completions.
Is this widely available? Hollywood Brown over first quarter receiving yards?
I found it on 2 different places.
Okay.
You can get over 4.5 receiving yards in the first quarter on Hollywood Brown. One of the things I think is really interesting is, he's only played the last 4 games really for the Kansas City Chiefs. If when you dive into those 4 games, Andy Reid has tried to get him involved every single time in the first quarter. 3 of the 4 first drives for Kansas City, he has at least 1 target. And in the first quarter, he's gotten at least 1 target in all 4 games. That means that Reid is trying to game plan Hollywood Brown into the game. I mentioned those quick slants, the swings out to wide receivers and running backs. I think Hollywood Brown is a highly likely recipient of one of those quick slants here in the first quarter for the Chiefs. I was looking for actually first drive props to see if I could get completion on the first drive at plus money for him. I was able to find this over 4.5 receiving yards here. DraftKings is the easiest place to find it right now. It's buried in a couple other books. But over 4.5 receiving yards in the first quarter for Hollywood Brown. I think Reid goes right back to the well and tries to find a way to be able to incorporate him early into this ball game.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Mike Somich. Follow him on X at SamoBomb18. Also, he hosts Ready, Set, Bet Saturday and Sunday nights right here on VSiN. Okay, so that's the bets that you have so far for the Chiefs. Let's go Eagles here. A couple of player props. Now, this number has moved, and a lot of people like Dallas Goedert, right? But it does make sense. Chiefs, they've been awful all year at defending tight ends.
Yeah, number 1 in the NFL with targets allowed, receptions allowed, and yards allowed per game. We saw Goddard have a big part of that, a big game in that Washington Commanders game as well. He had a huge role both through the air, and they actually gave him some carries as well. With the way this Chiefs defense plays stylistically, it kind of funnels everything to the middle. That's not somewhere Jalen Hurts loves to throw the football, but when he does, it is often to Dallas Goedert. This actually opened at 45.5 yards. Matt and I talked about it Sunday night. It was awesome to be able to, 2 weeks out from the Super Bowl, have all the props populated multiple books. So shout out to those shops that were willing to take the chance and put numbers out. And this Goedert one was one that immediately got steamed. So I was able to get it at 47.5. I've seen it at 50.5 in some places. I've seen it up to 52.5 at others. I project them for right around that 58-yard mark. So I still think there is some value to the over, but it's starting to get a little bit pricey. I do think Goddard has a shot at having a pretty big game here. So I got over 47.5 reception yards. I would still play it if you can shop around and find that, let's say, call it that 50.5 reception yards here, because it does project out for Goddard to have a very big game against this Chiefs defense.
I'm with you. And then it's also has to be feed Barkley all day.
I think so. When you look at what Kansas City has struggled with, especially the last 2 games in these playoffs, you look at Mixon and that weak offensive line for Houston, they were able to move the football on the ground. I don't know what Buffalo was doing with not giving it to James Cook more. He was highly successful when they actually just called straight running plays for him. I don't think Philadelphia is going to watch the tape of the previous 2 playoff games and get away from what really is their bread and butter. I think they want to pound Barkley, especially early in this spot, because you want the Chiefs to start dedicating men to the box. If you go back and you see that Eagles game against the Commanders and what made Hurts so successful, it was that we often saw 8 or 9 guys in the box for Washington. That made it a lot easier for him to go to his first or his second read on the outside. That's why we saw A.J. Brown have a good game. Well, if you want to do that against Kansas City, you've got to pull those safeties in. The only way to do that is show you can successfully run the football against him. I think because of that, the Eagles really have to come out and try and establish that run. If they do, then we're sitting at just 22.5 attempts here at plus 100 on DraftKings right now for Barkley's over. I think he gets 25, 26 carries, especially if this game stays close, which I do expect it to. So I'll take Barkley over his carries in the game as well.
All right, Mike, quickly here, about a minute left. Anything yet, side or total for you?
I've got a decent future on the Chiefs, so it's all about like how much do I want to hedge out or do I want to just roll with it? If I was going to bet the game right now, I would be betting the Chiefs. I like them minus the 1.5. As much as I think the better roster is on Philadelphia's side, outside of the secondary and the quarterback, pretty much position for position, you're taking the Eagles lineup. But to me, it comes down to the coaching here. Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, I trust those guys way more, especially when you pair Reid with Mahomes, than I do on the other sideline. So for me, it's the Chiefs minus the 1.5. I think they end up three-peating here.
Yep, three-peating. All right, there you go. Mike Somich, his show is called Ready, Set, Bet. It's an awesome show with Matt Brown, Saturday and Sunday nights right here on VSiN. Thanks, Mike. Good luck this weekend.
You got it, guys.
There you go.
Get our VSiN Super Bowl betting guide packed with info and everything you need to make informed wagers. Everyone's pick, MVP pick as well. Props, betting strategies, and tips. VSiN.com/subscribe and become a subscriber today as little as $9.99 and get your copy.
In Pocket plays up next. Nigel Seeley on the program as well. He is taking a nice dog this weekend in soccer.